two Bernie Sanders-aligned Maine progressives have just exited the Democratic Party stage left. Gone. Now, yesterday, the Associated Press reported that progressive Democratic state representatives Denise Harlow and Ralph Chapman had unregistered themselves from the Maine Democratic Party in protest. Now, protest of what? Now, it turns out they're not very happy with the Democratic Party not fighting hard enough on environmental issues, as well as a lot of other issues, but I think the main thing that was addressed here in the article in The Observer was environmental issues. Now, Harlow told the Portland Press-Herald, "Obviously, this is not a decision that I have taken lightly. I've been a member of the Democratic Party for my entire adult life, and I proudly represented part of Portland in the legislature for 6.5 years. I continue to be aligned with the core Democratic values." She added that the Democratic establishment marginalized independent thinkers and that lobbyists have gained an alarming control over the state government's representatives in Maine. And, of course, it's not just in Maine, it's happening all over the country, where you have more control from lobbyists and big corporations over local government. Now, the Congress, they're gone. They're already bought and sold. So now they're going to the state legislatures and they're buying them as well. And so it's not going to be too long until we lose complete control of even local government. And again, I think largely we already have.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Chapman and Harlow endorsed Senator Sanders back in the 2016 Democratic primaries, along with about 30 other state representatives. Now, look, I remember going to the reason why they left the Democratic Party. I remember us, you and I, Ron, and other progressives, basically going after Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party for not speaking out against fracking. In fact, Hillary Clinton was promoting fracking, and she used her position in the State Department to promote it around the world, which obviously is a bad idea. Because, again, we don't know what's in that proprietary fracking fluid that they're shoving into the ground. And, of course, you have increased methane release. Yes, it's not as bad as coal, but it's still bad. And the question isn't really, if this is worse than the other thing, then we should use the other thing. It's they're all bad, and we should not use any of them. And I'll have people, of course, that disagree. Dear friends of mine that will disagree. Hey, natural gas is a bridge, so we can do it something better. We've got to have something to run our economy right now. And I'd rather them use natural gas and coal. But again, it's that tranquilizing drug of gradualism that I completely, disagree with. So
not only that, but a lot of that energy is not staying domestic anyway. I mean, pretty much none of it is. So it's just a propaganda right-wing talking point to say that, And I know a lot of people, like, they're coming from a place of trying to assess the situation. But the reality is so much of that energy from fracking, almost none of it's staying domestic. This is just exploitation of land to just pad the pockets of oil company CEOs. That's really all this is. And even if it was a domestic energy solution, it is at best a Band-Aid on a broken arm. It's more than time for a Green New Deal. And the fact that the Democrats are not looking into that at all. It's really, other than some nice flowery verbiage, it's not even really part of the platform. And I can see how some people are tired of that being swept under the rug. They're tired of the whole all of the above approach on energy, which is basically, again, a Republican talking point that the Democrats are embracing. I can see how some people looking forward, they're saying this is too big to ignore and we can't compromise on this. And, the whole hey, we're pretty much corporatists, but we're okay with gay people. That's not cutting the mustard anymore as a progressive option in the United States, and people aren't taking it.
Yeah, and, other problems, of course, with the Democrats, to illustrate how corporatist the Democratic Party has become when it comes to these oil interests, you had Hillary Clinton appointing an oil lobbyist to head her transition team. And do you remember her going out and speaking out against Dakota Access?
No, she was completely silent.
Oh, not only was she completely silent during the election, has she said anything about Dakota Access afterwards?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't seem to remember that either. Kind of seems like that during this entire election, environmentalists had very few good choices. I mean, on the one hand, you have Donald Trump, doesn't believe in climate change, thinks it's a Chinese hoax. And then you had Hillary Clinton, which seemed to accept the science and champion some very weak reforms. And that's all she did. Basically, it was status quo. Oh, let's do more, let's do more fracking. Let's close down some of the coal plants, which is nice. But unless you have something to replace that with, then you're just going to piss off a whole lot of coal miners, which is exactly what she did in West Virginia.
Right.
Basically, yeah, the status quo, unfortunately, it's not working. Right now, we need nothing short of a green energy revolution to curb climate change, to curb the worst effects of climate change that we're going to see. And we were not going to get that with Hillary Clinton. At least with Trump, I mean, Clinton's incrementalism would not have solved the problem. It would have, yes, cut down emissions a little bit, but overall, our emissions are still way over what we need for 2 degrees Celsius in order to hit that goal. Trump, ironically, Trump going in full reverse might actually be enough to get people on track for a Green New Deal, as you were talking about. And I think that might actually be one of the positive things about a Trump presidency and when it comes to climate change. Do you agree?
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't really get significant change until you reach a point of crisis. And if there's one thing the Trump administration is going to do, it's going to get us to a point of crisis in many areas, be it healthcare or whatever else. Now, that's why more people are ready for single payer than ever before. They're seeing how catastrophic the AHCA is. And there's never been a point in our lifetimes, Jeff, where you have people getting into their town halls screaming at their elected officials to support universal single payer health care. That's happening now, and it's because people are so tired of the status quo, and they're seeing through the bullshit now. That's why it's time for a significant progressive legislation in the Democratic policy if they want to win. I think if they put single payer in the platform, they would have a sweep in 2018. I think that if they had a Green New Deal, because people want to know, especially people in states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, swing states, BTW, they want to know that a party has their back when it comes to a job. And they'll go along with the Green New Deal. People want that. People want to get off of foreign fuels. People want to get off of gasoline.
Yeah,
people want that. They're not against it. And people would respond as long as you had their back for a job. When people get sensitive, it's when you're going to take their job away and replace it with nothing else. And that's where Hillary Clinton's messaging failed. And that's where a Green New Deal would have filled those gaps. So yeah, I mean, the time is now for a Green New Deal, and I can understand how some people, elected officials and otherwise, feel like that's a dead-end road with, certainly it always was a dead-end road with the Republicans, and now they're feeling like it's a dead-end road with Democrats too.
Thing is, let me give you some numbers. There's a Gallup poll taken last year, so this was the height of primary season when people were actually paying attention. They did a poll, Gallup did a poll, that found that 73% of Americans now prioritize alternative energy over oil and natural gas. That is 89% of Democrats and 51% of Republicans. Even a majority of Republicans are like, yeah, alternative energy makes sense. Maybe we should develop that instead of just sticking to oil and natural gas and coal. And look, even if you can remember the town hall where Bernie Sanders was in West Virginia talking to coal miners, and he, basically he was asked by Chris Hayes, there was somebody there that was asked by Chris Hayes, hey, would you give up your job working in the coal mines for a job maybe in like green energy or something that paid the same and had the same benefits, or paid better and had better benefits? And the guy said, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Why work in a coal mine when you actually have better jobs? But see, the people in West Virginia, and they don't have those opportunities anymore because all they live in is an area dominated by the coal industry and politicians purchased by the coal industry, and that's all they invest in. And so it is like I mean, they're in a bad way because coal is dying. It is being phased out. It is getting too expensive to do coal now. And that's, I think, something that a lot of pundits tend to gloss over because it is more expensive to focus on just coal. But these states, these areas have all of their industry based around just coal. And that's a stupid thing to do. Look what happened in Detroit when they based their entire economy in the auto industry. It doesn't work out very well. That's why people in Appalachia right now are struggling so hard, and that's why they're willing to vote for change, even if it comes in the form of Donald Trump. You got to give people opportunities. If you're going to shut down their main job, you got to give people opportunities. You got to give people new jobs to replace those. And I think if you run with that economic populist message of, hey, don't worry, we're gonna make sure that you guys have a job while we transition away from coal, oil, and natural gas with this, and that's of course part of that Green New Deal. That's the whole point. Let's transition, but let's do it in a way that creates jobs and opportunity in these areas that are going to be the hardest hit. And you do that, people, even a majority of Republicans, are going to be on board with investing in alternative energy. This is not a right and left issue. It's a jobs and economic and opportunity issue. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYT Nation.